This week's show focuses on a privacy discussion, a revived tier of autopilot features, more progress in Berlin, and more government electrification. This is Tesla Tidbits episode number 658 for the week of June 27th, 2021. We kicked this week's show off with a discussion I had with our favorite Tesla tinkerer, Jason Hughes. For those that missed it, Tesla recently enabled the cabin camera in cars equipped with it. Tesla is using the camera to monitor the driver for their attention on the road and is required to be functional in order for Autopilot to work. Jason and I had a long discussion regarding the privacy implications around this development, and he actually did move my position on this somewhat. If you've not seen me on Twitter talking about this, I've lauded the development as a twofold benefit. One, from a safety perspective, to ensure that drivers are indeed monitoring the road as they're supposed to while Autopilot is engaged, and two, from a PR perspective, to slap down the annoying flies buzzing around criticizing the system for lacking visual driver monitoring. Jason's position is that this is an invasion of privacy and should not be required in order for the system to function. There's a lot of discussion here, and I encourage you to check out the full thread linked in the show description, but there are two things here that I think are key points of the discussion. The main point that I have that I know we disagree on is that from my view, if you own a car with 8 cameras situated around the outside that are always monitoring and recording, you've already lost the privacy game. In my opinion, if you're accepting the fact that you're going to own a car with all this connectivity and surveillance capability, you've already implicitly accepted a cabin camera. Jason's position is that what happens in the cabin should be considered private and is none of Tesla's or anybody's business. So we clearly disagree here. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the audience as well. I don't know if there's necessarily a right answer here, to be honest, but genuine discussion around it is certainly something that is welcome and should be had. The other piece is then around Autopilot being disabled if the camera isn't functioning. Here's where I've changed my tune slightly. I'm on the side of this that this is a vital safety feature and should not be able to be disabled. However, where I've changed slightly here is for people that purchased the vehicle before this became a requirement. Because this is not how the system worked at the time the owner purchased the vehicle, nor was there any indication that this would be the way it would work, I think that anyone that purchased the car before the date that Tesla rolled this out should have the option to disable the system. Changing how a feature works that causes legitimate privacy concerns after the fact is tantamount to pulling a feature from an owner without warning, despite them paying for it. In a world where we buy these features as software, we have to be very careful how we let the company change conditions after the fact. This can be a very slippery slope that I don't think we want to find ourselves on. However, now that this is common knowledge, I believe it's fair game for Tesla to expect the camera to be operational for owners purchasing the cars after they've rolled out this functionality. Autopilot requires the monitoring, and if it's not available, it does not work. So if you have privacy reservations going forward, don't expect to be able to use the Autopilot system without the camera keeping an eye on you. As a PS on this one, it should be noted that from a privacy perspective, Tesla does not have access to any of your video remotely unless you give that to them by accepting this explicitly in the car's options for data sharing. Now, it should also be noted that we never can really know this for sure. The video is always captured and always sitting there, it's just whether Tesla obeys their own rules and stays away if you tell them to. But Tesla is at least on the surface acknowledging the privacy issue at hand by not collecting your video unless you tell them they're permitted. Big shout out to Jason for the discussion. This was an exemplary sample of the type of civil discourse we need to have when on opposite sides of an issue with anyone. Tidbit number 2 is an interesting rumor coming from Holmar's catalog and bringing some news about Autopilot. We all remember the sort of half step between original Autopilot and full self-driving that was enhanced Autopilot. It added on features like auto lane change, smart summon, navigate on Autopilot, and auto park for vehicles equipped with Autopilot 2 and later hardware. However, Tesla said heck with that and eventually made just all of these features part of the full self-driving suite, and you had to purchase that option in order to get those benefits. But our friends in Asia and Europe recently became able to purchase just these features, and it looks like US owners may soon also get this opportunity for the sum of $4,000 US. I actually like this and wish they would go back to that option tiering. It would eliminate a very valid criticism of, hey, full self-driving has been offered for 4 years now and the cars still don't drive themselves from door to door yet for the average customer. Basic autopilot would continue to be a standard feature, and then you could purchase enhanced autopilot to gain the aforementioned features and layer full self-driving on top once it's truly available for all owners to use. The total of the costs would combine to whatever Tesla currently wants the full self-driving feature suite to cost in the end. Then, of course, once the feature is available to all, enhanced autopilot could go away again, and there would simply be an option for full self-driving. Prior owners that bought enhanced autopilot but did not have full self-driving could have a full self-driving upgrade option available to them that continues to serve the same purpose to make the total cost of enhanced autopilot plus the upgrade equal to the current cost of the full suite. Keep your eyes out if you're in the position that you'd like to add some features to your car at a much lower price than normal. This could be your chance. Tidbit number 3 is our continuing watch at the progress of the Gigafactories. We look this week to Berlin, courtesy of Tasmanian. The latest and greatest photos from inside would seem to indicate that the amazing paint shop that Elon has talked up as being the world's most advanced paint shop has begun testing. Photos in the article depict painted Model Y bodies inside the factory. We are so close to Giga Berlin being complete. I think the only thing we really have left to see now are prototypes rolling off the full assembly line. Once this is complete, this will be a huge deal for fans of Tesla in Europe. As some may or may not know, Tesla only ships vehicles overseas in blocks at certain points in the quarter, so overseas fans typically see longer waits to get their vehicles than those of us in the US. While the factory will only produce Model 3 and Model Y, it will at least serve to greatly alleviate one bottleneck to great effect, as we've already seen in the Asian market with the opening of Giga Shanghai. As always, stick around here for updates, and I'll let you know as they roll in. And rounding out this week is a story from Tesla and the Gong for our friends in Australia. It looks like the New South Wales government is getting pretty serious about getting drivers into EVs. First up are new rebates for EV purchases. Beginning on September 1st, the first 25,000 purchasers of new battery electric vehicles whose cost, including GST, comes in under $68,750 Australian, will get a cool $3,000 Australian rebate back. The second point is that the stamp duty will also be removed starting on the same date for both new and used EVs. The cap for this is raised slightly, needing only to be under $78,000 Australian to qualify, and there doesn't appear to be a limit to the number of people that can receive the benefit either. The video notes that if you've already paid stamp duty on an existing EV, you'll be eligible to be exempt from the road user charge. And finally, the government itself is getting in on the action. New South Wales looks to electrify its fleet of 12,000 cars by 2030. Aussie friends, let me know how this sounds to you folks. From this side of the globe, this looks to be great news for you, but you may be able to tell me what I've been missing also. For this and all stories I mentioned asking for feedback, feel free to hit me up on Twitter on the handle @TeslaTidbits or email me at podcast@teslatidbits.com. I look forward to hearing from some of you. That'll do it for this week's show. Thanks to all my patrons supporting the show at patreon.com/TeslaTidbits. And as always, I have a special shout out to the super patrons supporting the show at the $10 plus level. They are Ryan Scarborough, Lee Sweet, William Henry Crew III, Dorian Steve Guberman, Ralph and Cheryl Waterhouse, Todd Sullivan, Zortec LED Canada, Raymond and Deborah Malkowitz, Vicky Kirk, Ricky Johnston, Nathan Garza, Ed Patterman, Sunil Joseph, and Brad Lettner. If you have feedback for me, as I mentioned earlier, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits and use the hashtag AskTeslaTidbits if you'd like your question to be considered for the show. Until next week, keep it charged and hit the road.